Once upon a time, deep in the heart of Africa, there lived a woman named Wanga. She was known far and wide for her cunning ways and mysterious aura, with whispers of her witchcraft floating on the wind. Her thatched hut, hidden in a dense forest, was avoided by the villagers for fear of the strange and unseen powers she wielded. Wanga's eyes gleamed with untold secrets, and while her laughter was warm and welcoming, it carried an unsettling chill. Wanga had lived alone for many years, her sharp mind often preoccupied with thoughts of the village she watched from afar. She was respected, even feared, but she lacked the one thing that tugged at her heart every night: the joy of motherhood. She longed for a child, but not in the way most women did. She wanted something more than just a child. She wanted a companion who would obey her will and share in her mystical knowledge. Under the light of a full moon, Wanga gathered herbs and performed an ancient ritual, chanting incantations that reached deep into the world of spirits. She called upon powers far older than any human, hoping they would grant her wish. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, Wanga's belly began to swell as if she were with child. The villagers gossiped in hushed tones, baffled by the sight of her growing body, for no man had been seen visiting her hut. Some believed she had cast a spell, while others feared darker forces were at work. One cool morning, as the sun painted the sky pink and gold, Wanga gave birth. But it was no human child she held in her arms. Instead, a small, fluffy, wriggling puppy lay nestled against her chest. The villagers were stunned when they heard the news, but Wanga was undeterred. She named him Chui, meaning leopard, for she saw strength and cunning in the small creature that no one else could see. As time passed, Wanga raised Chui with the same care and attention any mother would give her child. The puppy grew quickly, and it wasn't long before the villagers realized that Chui was no ordinary dog. He seemed to understand every word Wanga spoke, and soon, she was sending him on errands. To their amazement, Chui would return with items strapped to his back, never once failing in the tasks given to him. His sharp eyes and ears caught everything, and his speed and agility surpassed that of any ordinary animal. The villagers began to fear Wanga even more, but they were also in awe of her bond with Chui. She used him to settle scores, sending him to spy on those who dared speak ill of her. When the village chief refused to share a portion of the harvest with her, Wanga whispered into Chui's ear, and by morning, the chief's most prized goat had vanished. Days later, Wanga returned the goat, claiming her loyal companion had found it wandering the forest. The chief, suspicious but too wary to challenge her, gave Wanga a generous reward. From that day on, she received her fair share without complaint. Chui became famous for his cleverness. Villagers would often gather around Wanga's hut, hoping to witness one of his astonishing feats. Wanga, always one to savor her power, told extravagant stories of Chui's intelligence, some true, others embellished for effect. Chui would sit by her side, tail wagging, as if he were in on the joke. Yet, despite Wanga's apparent love for her dog son, her heart remained clouded with ambition. She enjoyed using Chui to control those around her, using trickery and fear to maintain her influence over the village. As the years passed, Chui grew into a full-grown dog and his abilities only increased. He seemed almost human in his understanding, able to find lost items, uncover hidden secrets, and even catch thieves. Wanga, however, was not content. She had tasted power and wanted more. She devised increasingly elaborate schemes, using Chui to manipulate the village's wealth and status in her favor. No one dared cross her, for fear of the mysterious misfortunes that seemed to follow those who did. Pause, please. Are you enjoying listening to the story? Please consider subscribing, liking, sharing, and also commenting if you are still interested in listening to our story. Tell us the next story you would love to hear from us. Let's continue telling our story. But one day, a wise elder from a distant land arrived in the village. His face was lined with age, and his eyes sparkled with the wisdom of many years. He had heard of Wanga and her extraordinary dog. As the villagers spoke of her feats with both awe and fear, the elder chuckled softly. "The spirits have a way of balancing the scales," he said. "What one takes by force, they will repay in kind." Wanga laughed when she heard of the elder's words, dismissing them as the ramblings of an old man. She believed her power was unshakable, but fate, as it often does, had other plans. One fateful night, when the moon was high and full, Wanga awoke to find Chui missing. Panic seized her heart. She searched the forest, calling his name, but the night remained eerily silent. Days turned into weeks, and still, there was no sign of Chui. The villagers whispered that perhaps the spirits had reclaimed him, balancing the scales as the elder had foretold. Without her beloved dog, Wanga's power began to fade, and the villagers no longer feared her as they once had. Then, just when Wanga had given up hope, one moonlit night, she heard a familiar bark echoing through the trees. Rushing outside, she saw Chui standing at the edge of the forest, his golden eyes gleaming in the darkness. But he was not alone. Behind him stood a pack of wild dogs, their eyes glowing like embers. They circled Wanga, their growls low and threatening. Chui, her once loyal companion, stood at the head of the pack. As Wanga looked into his eyes, she saw no trace of the love and loyalty that had once been there. Instead, she saw only the reflection of the power she had tried to control. The wild dogs closed in, and for the first time in her life, Wanga felt fear. The next morning, the villagers found Wanga's hut empty. No one knew where she had gone, though some claimed they heard the sound of distant howls carried on the wind. The wise elder smiled when he heard the news. "Balance," he whispered to himself. Wanga's story became a legendary one. The villagers spoke of her cleverness and how even the strongest of magic could not escape the balance of the spirits. And as for Chui, the villagers say that his spirit still roams the forest, leading his pack, forever a reminder that power gained through trickery will eventually turn against its wielder. And so, the story of Wanga became a lesson for all. That even the cleverest of tricks can come back to bite, and true power lies not in control, but in harmony with the world around you.